the result is, oh, you're concerned about your property taxes? Okay, good. We'll do a new business tax. And you and I go, woohoo, stick it to the man. And we're all happy about it because we think our property taxes are going to go down. Well, in point of fact, your tax burden didn't go down. Your property tax burden didn't decrease. How many of you actually had a real decrease in the amount you wrote for school property taxes over the past 3 years? Maybe one of you, maybe two, none. Yeah, that's normal. People haven't seen it. Why? Because we in Texas, we addressed the rate problem with property taxes. We didn't address the appraisal side. That was left unreformed, which in some parts of the state is a big problem. But more importantly, we didn't address the spending. We didn't do anything to address the spending. And so the spending has continued unabated. In fact, it's accelerated. When you have as much spending going on, you just simply can't ever have true, meaningful tax relief. And this is where I'm probably going to offend a couple of you who may be under the employ of our public school system, and for that, well, I don't apologize. When I pulled up the numbers for Lubbock here, taking a look, because it's important to recognize when you look at your property taxes, half to as much as 2/3 of your property tax burden is public education spending, public school spending, your public school dollars, independent school district dollars. Half to a third of your property tax bill is public school spending. I looked at just the past 10 years here in Lubbock. You have seen expenditures per pupil rise 89% in the last 10 years. Per pupil spending has gone up 89% in the last 10 years. Statewide, it's been 79%. 89% increase in per pupil spending in the last 10 years. I'll give you a dollar number for that. In 1998, Lubbock ISD was spending $5,236 per child. This last year, Lubbock ISD spent $9,878 per child. That's a massive increase in per pupil spending. And what did you get for it? You would expect, with those kinds of increases in spending, to have at least seen some kind of increase in academic outcomes and some better academic performance numbers. And yet you didn't. The SAT scores remained absolutely the same. Not a change. 1024, then 1025 now. Not a change in SAT scores. Now, SAT scores are just one measure. ACT scores, pretty much the same. It's just one snapshot. But a snapshot sometimes can tell you a lot. Taking a picture of all of you nice people right now, well, it doesn't tell me everything, but it does tell me you wore a blue shirt this evening. That tells me something. You wore blue jeans, you have nice jewelry on. There are lots of things you can draw from a snapshot. And taking a look at SAT scores doesn't tell the whole picture, but starts making you want to ask some more questions, like, how was money in the Lubbock Independent School District being used? Well, student enrollment dropped by about 1%, a little less than 1% from 1998 to 2008. So you had the number of students decline over 10 years in our public schools here in Lubbock. On the other hand, the number of teachers increased by 3%. Why did that happen? I don't know. Good question for us maybe to ask as citizens. Why are you hiring more teachers? The number of students is declining. Maybe they're specialty teachers. Mandates from the state, changing class sizes. Mandates, of course, that your school district asked for. When you listen to city council members, county commissioners, and school board members complain and whine about all the unfunded mandates that come from Austin, before you yell at Carl Isett and say, oh, you dirty blankety blank for all these mandates you guys impose, I would encourage you to try this one experiment. Go ask the school board member what the legislation was that imposed the unfunded mandate upon them. Go to the state website, which is Legis, Legis, www.state.tx.us. Type in that legislation number, and then pull up the witness list for that legislation. You'll be surprised. Well, you won't have to give away the punchlines, the downside of doing this without all of you seeing your computers. The downside to this, when you pull up that list, what you find is your school boards, is your school superintendent, your school board members, the Association of School Boards, the Association of School Administrators, the Classroom Teachers Association, go down the list of all these groups and associations. They all testified in favor of the unfunded mandates. A couple of years ago, y'all might recall this horrible, horrible tragedy happened somewhere else out in the country, not in Texas, but where a school bus was hit by a train. Do y'all remember that happening about 4 years ago now? Well, the Texas legislature came into session in 2007, and a superintendent from down in the valley came to Austin with his cause being that we need evacuation drills for school buses. We need to have evacuation drills so kids know how to get off of a school bus. Train's coming at me, I go for a door. I don't know. But we need to have drills for school bus evacuation. And so his solution, a mandate, requiring that school districts have this evacuation training twice a year. Well, okay, the legislature passed it. Who could be against it? All the teacher associations, all the administrative associations, the school board associations were all in favor of this. The PTA testified in favor of it. Everyone was in favor of this. Went into effect of September 1st, 2007. Suddenly the school districts are now having these mandatory days of training for school bus evacuations. Fast forward to 2009. The very same superintendent was testifying before the House Education Committee, whining and complaining about all of the mandates imposed by the legislature. And what mandate did he, specifically mention? The school bus evacuations. The same guy demanding it one session now comes and is horrified that the state didn't pay for it now. I mean, it's just crazy. But we see that happen time after time after time with these mandates. So before your city council or county commissioner or school board members convince you that, oh, the problem is Austin and their unfunded mandates, make sure you look and see, because more than often they actually asked for the unfunded mandate. They like being able to tell you, sorry, the legislature makes us paint the gels pink. We don't want to paint the gels pink, but they make us do it pink. Well, then you find out that they did it. Why? Because no county commissioner would ever come to you and say, we want money to paint the gel pink. You'd never go for that. But if they can blame the legislature, okay, here's more money. You and I are very predictable that way. So some of this stuff, like increase of class size, that could contribute. But, hiring more teachers, that's hard to argue with. That's direct classroom instruction. We need more good teachers in our schools. Good way to spend money. What we don't need, though, are more non-teachers on the public school payroll. You look statewide, and Lubbock is no exception. For every one teacher on the payroll, and teachers, by the way, by the TEA are defined as librarians, classroom teachers, and some assistants, some classroom assistant teachers. Those are all categorized, and even some assistant principals, by the way, are all categorized as teachers for the purposes of the TEA. For every one of those, there's someone else on the payroll. 50-50, a one-to-one ratio between teachers and non-teachers on the public school payroll. And in Lubbock, over the past 10 years, there was an 18% increase in the number of non-teachers on the Lubbock ISD payroll. And so, okay, 18% more, what were they doing? We don't know. That's the kind of questions you and I need to be asking as we get frustrated about our property tax bill. We should also ask why it is that teachers got a 31% pay raise over that 10-year period, while the central administration got a